average for
That's
all 5 boroughs.
that's the measure across the 5 boroughs that's how much your family would have to earn to be able to absorb that kind of a hit. And people earn less than that, and they find ways to make it work, but not without it being to the detriment of themselves and their financial situation.
Right.
And I think that, I never thought that I'd be the guy making it easier for aunties at the family function to pressure you into having a kid, but here we are.
So in some respects, Zoran Mamdani's mayoralty has been an aphrodisiac for New Yorkers to begin to repopulate this grand experiment.
I can see the attack ads now.
Exactly. Zoran Mamdani, the aphrodisiac. So what about what you're trying to deliver has been slightly more complicated than what you thought it would be? We can walk through it. Housing. So you were able to get through a rent freeze, a 2-year rent freeze, yes?
Yeah, the Independent Rent Guidelines Board established a 2-year rent freeze for over 2 million New Yorkers who live in rent-stabilized housing.
Right. And again, not when people immediately cried communism, it's not unprecedented. The 2 years is unprecedented, but this has been done for 1 year by other mayors.
Yeah, they have done it in the past, yeah.
What about in terms of housing? What's been, what have you been able to deliver? What's frustrated you? What's the next step?
Well, I think I'll just take a step back to tell you, John, that the most challenging thing overall was when I came into this position, I expected that it would be difficult in terms of the finances of the city, especially given my predecessor's approach to those finances. What I did not expect was $12 billion worth of difficulty.
Right.
And
that surprised you?
It is, when I've talked about wanting city government to be remade in the image of a struggling New Yorker, one aspect of it
American military presence in the Baltics has been reinforced in response to the Russian military exercises
one of the many
held
reasons for
on
that is
both
that this
sides of the
is
Suwalki Gap in Kaliningrad and Belarus.
When we're looking at,
with more
when we
than
look at that fiscal
40,000
deficit,
military personnel involved,
what was
ships,
hard,
tanks,
one of the many things
planes,
that was
and
challenging
helicopters,
is that you
the
couldn't
biggest
blame it on
military
an
exercise
external
ever held in the region.
You couldn't say,
Camp
oh, it's
Herkus,
the
new
fiscal
permanent
crisis
U.S.
of
base in the
2008.
region, is at the
Everyone can
epicenter
see
of
what's going on
tensions
across the
as
country
U.S.
and the
and
world.
Russian military
This was,
exercises
in
are
many
held
ways, purely
simultaneously
of City
less than
Hall's
20
doing.
miles
It was
away from each
mismanagement
other.
and underbudgeting.
The need for the
And
permanent deployment
it
of
had
U.S.
been
forces in
building for
Lithuania
years.
is
But I
more
think
apparent than
that
ever.
one of
And we are
my
looking forward to
goals
continuing to
is
take
how
advantage of
do we right
opportunities
this ship,
to enhance the
not just in a
interoperability of our
12-month,
forces,
you know,
providing a
interval,
credible
but frankly, on a
deterrent
medium
against
and a long
any
term.
potential
Because
aggression,
if
and to
you're just
operate more
going to survive
effectively
on a
should
calendar
deterrents
year
fail.
basis,
General Bennett, you are in
many
charge
ways
of
going to have
U.S.
to rob Peter
military
to pay Paul.
operations in the
And
region.
that's,
Why
eventually
are
that bill's going
U.S.
to come
forces
due.
in such
And the
close
thing that I'm looking
proximity
forward
to
to
the
next
Russian
year is that
exercise? Don't you
we're
fear
not
this
going to have to
aggressive
inherit a
posture
$12
could
billion
lead to an
fiscal deficit, no
escalation?
matter how tough it is.
Last time I checked,
Although
Lithuania
what
was
do
a
you do
sovereign
with,
country.
there's certain
It's
things
their
that,
wish to host
they sort of
permanent
call
U.S.
gimmicks
forces
that
on their
start
soil. I don't see why Moscow
balance
should have
the
a
budget.
say in
And
that.
a lot of the mayors have done
Now,
that.
if you
Sort of
excuse me,
things that they
I
pass
have a
along to
military
other- I think
exercise
Bloomberg
to
was one of the
prepare.
ones who did it.
Thank you,
How
General
does
Bennett.
straightening out that without pulling from
Good morning,
different
Commander.
pension funds
So, if you
that
see
are
me on
going
the
to,
news,
mature
everyone's
in
talking about this exercise.
2032?
It's not every day
How do
you
you
see
begin
such a
to straighten
display of
those
power.
finances out
Reminds me of Desert
without
Storm in
having to
'91.
use kind
Ah,
of,
the
it's,
good old
in some
days.
ways, it's like you're the GM of
Anyway,
a football
Major
team that's
Williams,
got a salary.
how are the
cap.
preparations
you
coming
don't want to go
along?
into that second apron for
The
New
men
York
are ready,
City,
General.
man.
We can
And
begin the
so,
exercise.
How do you
All
begin
right,
to
then.
do that in
Showtime.
a manner that is more
One last thing,
objectively
General.
grounded
A special diplomatic
and
envoy
not
sent by
really
Washington has demanded to meet you.
budgetary
Counselor Miller?
magic?
Of course it's Miller.
First,
no military
brought it
demonstration
up, so
in
I
the
just gotta
world
say,
is
I'm already missing
complete
Mitch.
without this vulture showing
Sorry,
up.
it's very hurtful.
His
very
stupid
hurtful.
face is the last thing I want to see
continue on.
today.
Did you see his
So let's
comment
go.
the
We're on a
Boston Celtics
schedule.
Instagram page?
What? No. Oh, when he went after the Celtics fans, when he said, "I own you."
God bless.
Can I tell you something? There is a monster truck-sized hole in my heart.
Yes. It's one of the best TikTok pages to go to.
He's the best. So funny.
I never appreciated these comments.
I know. I've seen him stand. I think that was his truck in the parade, by the way. I don't even think that was. I think that was actually he drove there that day and just got in the back. That's how it worked.
God bless.
Yeah.
But to your actual question, I think one of the key challenges of this moment specifically because of just how much under
Miller
budgeting
keeps
there was,
calling
how
and
much
won't
money the
give me
city
a
was
break
spending,
if I
but
don't
not
throw him
showing
a
on its
bone.
books
Go
for
pick
a
him
lot
up
of
at
its
his
different
hotel
social
and
programs
take him
and
for a
services.
tour, Commander.
And so when we looked at that, we
Show
said,
him around the
if
base,
you
do
just
whatever
spread
you
what
want,
had already
as
been
long as
22
you
years,
keep him
you
out
just
of my
extend it by
hair.
a few years, you
And
would then
take
be able to
Williams
take
with you.
savings
No
that
offense,
you will
but
get
he's more
the
targeted
year
than
after
you.
as you're scheduled to, but instead spread them over. Then you
Well,
can
Commander,
actually
I
make
guess
sure
we're
that
the
you're
bone
able to
then.
steward this in a way
Miller's
that's
Hotel is
more
on the way
healthy
to the
at a
training
medium-term
area.
level.
Let's
Now, I
hope
know that
he's
there
in
are
a better
others
mood than the
who've
general.
seen municipalities move around their pension obligations, and there's a worry of what does this mean for, are you going on or that, this, that, and the other. The thing that's different in New York City is that we are not only funding our pension systems at a much higher level than many of the other municipalities that are being cited, but also that it's not a question of if we're going to get to 100% funding. It's just a question of when in the 2030s.
And
There are
then
units
you
from
have to
all
look
three
at it, 'cause I
Baltic
guess
states
there's sort of
grouped here.
different areas.
Lithuanian
like,
artillery,
we'll spend less
mechanized
here,
infantry from
we need to
Latvia,
raise more
as well as
revenue
reservists
here.
and armored vehicles
Is
from
there a
Estonia.
kind of interplay between the kinds
They
of
have
taxes?
different
Because
equipment,
Albany, I
different
imagine,
tactics,
is not going to
speak
go
different
along
languages.
with really raising taxes.
Creating an interoperable
In the
force
same
in
way
this
that you might
region
want.
is a
I
real
think what you'll
headache.
find actually is there are a lot of people in Albany who do agree with the vision of raising taxes a little bit more on the wealthiest so that everyone can afford life in New York City. And what it is, as you said, is it can't just be one thing. It has to both be a conversation about revenue and a conversation about savings. So we actually created something called Chief Savings Officers for the first time, where we had in every single agency and department.
Oh, sure, CSOs.
Counselor Miller.
CSOs, come on.
I am
CSOs.
Major Williams.
That's
You know,
It's
you're
a pleasure to
right
have
there.
you with
Cooler.
us.
You're
The
talking to
commander
your
and
friend,
I
you're
will
like,
show
hey,
you
you heard
around
about
on
the
our way to the
CSOs? What do you
general.
think about the CSOs?
Please
Hey, do you know
welcome.
the CSOs coming in here? You got like 5
Well, it's about
CSOs.
time. Let's go.
Me and my
Beautiful.
CSOs
Take
were
me to the
hanging
training
out,
ground
catching
first.
up.
I need to make sure that our equipment is showcased in the best possible conditions.
And the CSOs,
The
they
exercise is
found
about
about
to start, so you
$1.7
will be able
billion
to see for yourself.
in savings across
I
city government.
didn't know there was a
and
show.
They're actually going to continue
This
that
whole
work.
exercise is for
Because
show, Major.
when you look
a show
at
of
the
force
size
for
of
our
budget,
potential
you also look
enemies,
at what the
but also an
approach has
arms
been
fair for our
to the
partners.
finances of our city. We know that there
I
are
see.
more savings to
And
be had.
which partners
and
are we trying to
sometimes
impress
these
today,
are the
Counselor?
efficiencies that come
That's
from when you're actually
confidential.
pressure
Just
testing
drive, Major.
how we've been doing things. There's savings to be had when you actually say that, could that contract that you're giving to a consultant actually be done in-house? And it can
Right.
be a lot of times.
Were there stuff in the budget as you went through that you're like, $100 million on mittens? What is this? Like, did you find things that you couldn't believe? You were just like, where's these
Are we
love
there yet,
seats?
Major?
What's going on?
Almost, sir.
I haven't seen that specific example.
You don't comb it through like that. It's not.
We do come through. And there were a number of things where you can't provide a justification for it. And if you can't provide one, then why should the city be spending that money? A lot of times it comes from a vision of government where you want to hollow out its capacity and
Right.
privatize as much of its responsibility. And oftentimes it's done in the name of fiscal prudence, and yet what you find is you end up overpaying for that external capacity than what it would look like if you invested internally. I mean, we've talked about in the past this, the previous administration had an AI chatbot that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
This
that
is the
was
artillery
not
training
even
ground,
usable.
Counselor. Here our soldiers practice
Or is
fire
it just like
mission
the
procedures.
Microsoft paperclip?
The commander
that
will
just
make a
pops up?
demonstration for you.
What can I do for you today?
It's like, I
Let's
thought
see
you
how much
liked your
time it'll
job.
take you to hit
It's
all
just
these
Ask
targets,
Jeeves.
Commander.
He's just back.
Right. That's all they do is they just run it through that.
And you look at that, and it's not just the amount of money, it's also the number of vendors that we went through to get to that point. It just speaks to an approach to contracting that does not actually save you money, and it doesn't build any kind of long-term fluency. What it does is just lock you into commitments that will cost you money and oftentimes won't even perform those services.
I don't know if you know this about me, but my summer wardrobe is, and I've taken to this, it's been for many years now, is I wear only 19th century swimwear. That is, I wear
I don't have all day,
woolen,
Commander. Will you manage to hit or target or not?
unitard bathing suits like you would see on Coney Island when they first invented the camera. And I also have a giant handlebar mustache that I glue on and walk around with. And so that's where that's where the company Quince comes in. For those of you like me who are only festooned in 19th century swimwear, Quince comes in, and they've got all kinds of options for you that are better than that. You know, they got, what do
Dispersion
they got?
increases
Linen
with
pants.
distance.
Come
That's
on.
why more rounds are needed to
You know
hit
what?
targets
European
located
linen
further
pants.
away.
Not like,
Smart
you know,
munitions don't have
linen
this problem.
pants from Akron.
They are much more
No.
accurate and can correct
European,
the
the good
trajectory to
kind,
hit a target
very
designated by a
lightweight.
laser.
You know, and they work with ethical factories. You know, cut out the middleman. You're paying for
Sir, the
exceptional
vehicles
quality.
must be kept on the shooting platform
Not
for
brand
safety
markup.
reasons.
Make your summer wardrobe easier. Go to quince.com/TWS for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada, too. That's QUINCE.com/TWS for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/TWS. The contrast between the caricature of you, if you spend any time speaking to you, there's a grounded seriousness and reality to the way that you're approaching these problems. Look, there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be first snowstorm is not going to be the same as the second snowstorm, as Fat Joe has in his song. Today's snowstorm is not tomorrow. But
That was the first draft of that.
that was the first draft of that song. But the character, so Trump will tweet out, communist lunatic. And are there criticisms that bother you? Are there ones you laughed on? You know, the city tweeted out during the heat wave, put your thermostats to 78. and immediately Ted Cruz from Texas is like, the warmth of collectivism. Meanwhile, Texas tweets out the same thing, and so does the Energy Department of the United States of America, which they pull off of their website out of fear that now they will be associated with this. Do any of those criticisms permeate? Do any of them land? Have you heard any of the criticisms where you thought to yourself, actually, that's constructive, and I will think about how to make adjustments to that? Any of that?
Look, I took offense when they came for socialist icon Rudy Giuliani's energy policy. I said, you say what you want about me, but
Yeah, no. You know what? Nobody puts Rudy in a corner.
let's not go there.
Let's not go. Let's not.
But
let's
I
not.
think, you know, it is easy when there is this much noise to tell yourself that all of it is exactly right. Tune it all out. But that's also what it will leave you in an echo chamber. You cannot have it that you are only surrounded by people who agree. You might
As you
well
can
just stay
see,
home.
our latest battlefield
And I think
management
that the
interface
job that I
enables
have, that my
extremely
team has,
responsive
that our
fire
administration
missions.
has, is
It was
how do
I
you
who
listen to
sold
all
that
of it
concept to
and
Congress.
then
Glad to see it
separate
works
out
in
what is
practice,
actually
too.
worth engaging with and what is just driven by the algorithm and written in response to what the algorithm responds to.
So
and
how is your
rewards.
hotel counselor?
And
I've
and I
heard
think
it's
that
quite
the other
fancy.
part of this is,
Apart
no
from
matter
the
how
fact that I
good
was
we may
woken
feel
up every
about
20
whatever
minutes by
achievement we
helicopters
have
passing
or how
right
this,
over my
6
head,
months
it
has
was
gone,
lovely.
You always have to push yourself because every day is an opportunity to do better for New Yorkers. And I think that's something that I love about this city is you especially see it in kind of sports culture, but I would say even in the cultural aspect of the city, there is this sense of having to be the best, of driving yourself
Sure.
each and every day. And yet in our politics, that often feels as if it's missing. There is somehow in a city that is the best in the world at so many things, mediocrity has come to be accepted as the standard in our politics. And I think it's something that we shouldn't accept any longer.
And it was one of the things that I think drew people to you, if I may, is there was it didn't just feel like platitudes. There was a specificity to the affordability argument. You know, I see a lot of politicians that they perform the rhetoric of that argument. We need to get back to kitchen table issues and all that, rather than going out to a halal food truck and go, why is this $14? There's like 3 pieces of chicken in here. It's about like, why does that cost that way? You know, is affordability the toughest challenge that you think you'll face?
Someone call for a cab?
I think so. Because
Could this still be a middle-class city?
that is what it has to be. And I think if we allow it to continue on the path it's been for many years, it will become a museum of where working class people once lived. And we don't want this to be something that people can visit to pay
Hey,
tribute to.
why
what it
is
once
the radar
was.
of
We
this
want it to be
Patriot turned
a
off?
living, breathing testament.
It's the standard
to that
procedure
energy.
to
And I
keep the
think what
radar
is
turned off
one of
by
the most
default,
concerning things
to keep
that
the unit
I
mobile
hear is
and avoid
when I
destruction
turn
by
to
anti-radiation
someone
missiles.
who is working
They can
as
still
hard
use
as they
their
can
backup
for the
tracking
city.
systems to
And I
target
ask them how
aircraft.
long their commute home
But
is.
in this mode, their
And they tell
detection
me
and engagement
it's
range
hours
are
because
limited.
they're going to another
Then
state.
switch this
or
radar
another
on,
city.
Commander.
That's
Let's
a
see how far
reflection
target
of
practice
a
drones can
failure
be detected
to
and
ensure that
engaged.
those who build the city can live in the city.
Wow. The
And the
range of
reason
these
I think that
missiles is impressive.
affordability will be our greatest challenge.
The efficiency
and
of the
also our
radar
greatest
depends on the
opportunity,
altitude
is
of the
This is
target.
what is pushing.
Low-flying aircraft are harder
You
to detect,
cannot
and
disentangle
helicopters
the
cannot
cost
be
of housing,
targeted
of
at all as they
childcare, of
fly below the
groceries
minimum detection
from
altitude
the
of the
exodus
radar.
of working class people from out of
That's
the
why
city.
short-range
Some
air
of these things are
defense,
New York City
SHORAD,
specific.
is
Some of
needed to
them are
complement
true
long-range
across the entire
surface-to-air
country.
missiles.
And we have to finally change direction so that people can actually afford to live here.
See, that I think is such, it brings up such an interesting point. You don't get sick. I don't know what they're doing. You protect, get this man some Purell, and you do not get sick, brother.
No. I'm on that emergency every day. I take that vitamin C.
You're shaking too many hands. I see it every day. Yeah. But
A fine
you know,
demonstration of our
the
firepower,
big
Commander.
talking
The
point
message is clear.
My God,
no
this
country
communist
equipped with our
lunatic is going to
anti-aircraft
drive
systems
out our
need
billionaires,
worry
as
about
though
its
that is
airspace
the
being
reason
violated.
that people are drawn to New York, that tourists come here and go, let's go down to Little Billionaire. And it's the area of New York where the billionaires live, and we can enjoy a small slice of how they live. But the real danger to New York is not the couple of billionaires who feel as though taxing their second home is too burdensome for that, but the exodus of essential workers who can no longer afford to be anywhere near this area. Wouldn't that be much more devastating?
What you're saying speaks to the fact that for all of the conversation about an imagined capital flight, there already
Can you
is
step on the
a
gas a
flight.
bit? We're
It's
crawling.
just of working class people.
Sorry,
And we
sir.
know that the
There are
racial
strict speed
dynamics of
regulations
this
on the base.
are also immense. But
Yeah,
we've
of
seen
course there
over the
are.
past few decades, our city has lost 200,000 black New Yorkers. From 2010 to 2019, the population of black children and teenagers declined by 19%. And you can feel that in this city, in neighborhoods that are shells of what they once were, and small businesses that don't have those same customers coming through that came in for years, and classrooms that are a little less full. If we want to be honest about what it's going to take, it's not just going to be one day to the next. It's also going to have to be
This is the
a
tank
complete
firing
shift.
range.
I mean,
A
I'll give you
platoon
an
of
example. of this. When we
M1A2
talk
Abrams
about
is
how
ready for the demonstration.
since the early 1960s, New York City started to make decisions
Tank armor is
that
much stronger
would
on the
render it
front than
unable
on the
to build
sides.
the level of
The
housing
training of our
needed
crews
to keep
consists
up
in
with demand.
maneuvering to
What were
engage
those
the
decisions? Are
enemy from
those
the
zoning
flank,
decisions?
A lot
while
of those are
minimizing
zoning
the
decisions.
exposure of
They're
their own
decisions
flanks.
around capacity
Okay.
and also around size of building, scale of building. And you'll walk around the city, you'll see buildings that are incredible, that we associate with our city, yet you could not build them today because they were built prior to those zoning changes having happened.
Right.
And one of the critical things here is we have to treat the cost
Tanks
of building
carry
crisis
different types of
as
rounds.
both a short-term
Explosive
crisis
rounds to
and
engage infantry and lightly
we have to
armored
take
vehicles,
immediate action,
and
then we have to do the
armor-piercing
long-term
rounds to
work
deal with
of
highly
being
armored
able to build
targets.
200,000 new affordable homes over
Explosive
10
rounds are
years.
equally
Because
effective
if
at
you do
any
not have a
distance,
city that is
but the
growing, a city
penetration
that is
of
building,
armor-piercing
then
rounds
what you have is a city
increases
that
the
is
closer you get
And
to
it's
the target.
difficult because here's your dilemma.
Hit me.
You make
You
this
should
place
move
too
closer
nice.
to the targets
then
to
rents are really
demonstrate
gonna,
the
then
increased
the whole,
penetrating
then
power
because
of
you
the
are,
kinetic
you're in a
ammunition,
vicious cycle
Commander.
in some respect. Look, we joke about it, but there are a lot of people in Brooklyn that are resentful as Brooklyn started to change and develop. It gentrified, and suddenly the people that lived in Brooklyn, as my family did when they came here, couldn't afford to live there anymore. It's as though when they finally came in and made the neighborhoods more livable, that drove out the people that had been living there. And I imagine that's a difficult problem to solve as well. It's this strange trap.
And I think anyone growing up in this city has gone through the experience of looking at a construction site in their neighborhood and asking themselves, is this for me? Or is this going to push me out? And one of the key things here
Very well.
is that
Now,
we
can
have
you
to
send
both
as many
build more
targets as
housing than
possible?
we've ever seen in our
Let's see
city
what a
in long
Soviet
time,
invasion of
and
Europe
do
would have
it
looked like.
while strengthening the tenant protections that we have in this city, so that we're not forced to choose between the tenants of today and the tenants of tomorrow. I think what you said there are a
Our
lot of New
tanks
Yorkers who
benefit from
rightfully
good reverse
associate
speed,
even just
which is not the
investments in
case
their
with
own
Russian
neighborhood
design tanks.
as if it
This allows us to
is
move
the
backward to avoid
appetizer
being
to
overrun,
displacement.
while maintaining our
We
powerful
have
frontal
to show
armor
that
facing the enemy.
you do not need new residents to invest in that. You can do that. And I think, when we go back to this conversation around the fiscal deficit of $12 billion, there is, in that moment, it is all too easy to say, the only focus right now is to get out of this fiscal crisis and then everything else will figure it out next year. We wanted to also use it as an opportunity to show that we mean what we say. That you do want to still fund your parks, your libraries, your cultural institutions, and do it in a way that annualizes that funding, as opposed to making it subject to every single year's, budget dance with the city council. And that's also, to me, what is a critical part of earning those New Yorkers' trust back, is that they see those investments in their neighborhood, and they see it before anyone's ever going to talk to them that you may have to leave. We want them to stay.
And it's and sometimes it's the small. I tell you, this seems like a ridiculous thing. One of the most important things you did was getting people to take some of that scaffolding down. Like, it's things that you do. Like,
Well, this is it.
the
70
scaffolding
tons
is
of
so
American
a part
diplomacy.
of the landscape
You mean
that
70
I
tons
almost
of a
thought of it as
diplomatic
like, oh, that's how
nightmare.
buildings are.
I had explained to the
they're
Lithuanian
built, and
government
people
why they
hang
needed to
scaffolding like
reinforce
Christmas
all their
lights.
road
Just
bridges
never
from
take 'em
here
down.
to Poland
like,
to support
that's
their
just
weight.
a crazy, weird thing.
Sure, but when
and
they
you start
arrive,
taking them down, you're
nothing
like,
stands
oh,
in their way.
wow, New York's beautiful.
And how was your flight,
We
Counselor?
treated it as if it was part of the
Completely
physical landscape
unremarkable.
of the city.
Right.
I spent
So
half
much
my
of
life
what
in the air.
the
So the
approach
only
has been
surprises
is,
would be
it is what it
finding
is.
snakes on the plane,
This is how it's
flying the
always
thing
been,
myself,
and that's just
or
not
reaching my
acceptable.
60s without
And I
getting
think to your
cancer.
point,
Helicopters
when
are
you are able to
impressive
choose
machines.
these kinds of
Boy, are they
ways
noisy.
that New Yorkers measure their quality of
Our
life,
pilots are ready to take off.
gives them-
Do you want to hop in for a ride,
it's an
Counselor?
invitation to them to hope
Certainly.
and believe.
It'll be a nice change
But
from
if you
those
don't
little
choose
private
those
helicopters
things,
that fly
then
like
why
cabs.
should they take that step?
And so
Cargo
getting back to the original
helicopters
sort
can
of,
transport troops and
that idea
supplies,
of
but also vehicles
redefining
as long
sort
as
of
their
what
weight allows
democratic
it.
socialism can do
One of our vehicles
for a
broke
city
down
this
during a maneuver
complex
exercise.
and
Let's
this
go and recover
size
it with our helicopter.
and kind of the realism that has to go along with it and the budgetary, restrictions and things that you have to get there. Do you in any way have that conversation with? So now democratic socialism is considered the hottest trend in the Democratic
The hooks are
Party.
in place.
And
Now let's
there's-
drop it off
there's
at the repair
energy,
station.
grassroots energy, and these democratic socialist candidates are popping up, and you're having to answer for every one of their policy positions. And there are some, look, maybe I'm an old man or a shit lib or whatever they want to call me, but
Who's calling you this?
anybody, if someone says we're going to abolish all prisons and borders, like I do go, I don't think that's a good idea. Like it feels like order and security is also a progressive value. Why shouldn't people in neighborhoods with less resources have the same safety and security that neighborhoods with lots of resources? So are there tenets of those that are kind of following in the wake of Zoran Mamdani's success that you're not comfortable with or that give you pause?
Yeah, if you have more than one socialist in a room and there isn't disagreement, then you don't have more than one socialist in a room.
Are you allowed to have more than one socialist in the room?
We're actually just trying to change that law.
The vehicle has
We're
been
trying to
unloaded.
get it to
The
two.
mechanics
Sort of
will
like
get
how
it back in
soccer
working
used
order.
to be in the NASL.
How
in the
about a little
80s.
target
There had to be
practice
2
now,
Americans
Counselor?
on every team, so there's got to be
Get behind
there's
one
gotta
of
be
the
2
machine
socialists.
guns.
Well,
And
look,
we'll
man,
put
now
you
we
in
have
range of some
quarters, and I
targets
didn't
to
think
shoot
that
at.
day was going to come with
But
the word
I have never fired a machine gun
So,
before.
but you're comfortable with those kinds of
Don't worry,
discussions?
it's very simple,
I'm
and I'll
comfortable
be
with
here to help.
disagreement. And I'm comfortable with disagreement that doesn't end the conversation entirely.
Attack
Because I think what
coordinates
motivates a lot of people is how do you deliver public safety? And the thing that I've said time and again is we cannot have New Yorkers choose between safety and justice. And yes, I am, doing the work with our police department, and we have been able to deliver the lowest number of murders and shootings in recorded history. And at the same time, I'm doing the work to close down Rikers Island and ensure that we are actually building the 4 smaller borough-based jails that brings an end to a horrible chapter in New York City history. And I think to your point, when we're thinking about safety, there cannot be a hierarchy of safety where you experience it more or less depending on where you live in our city or how much money's in your pocket. And there also can't be a definition of safety that is purely
Here we go.
meaning that how you respond to violence. We also have to do the work of investing so that we prevent violence.
To that point, the Department of Community Safety, which is one of those things that you had ran on, which I think was sort of reprioritizing some of those assets so that not necessarily it was always police were the first responders to everything. It was also, so how has that come? I know the money for it didn't exist. You had to do an executive order, I believe. What's the status of that? How has that grown?
So we've created
Pretty
that office
impressive
of
for
community
someone who's
safety.
never
We have for
shot
the first
before.
time in New York City now a deputy
That
mayor
must be a
for community
natural.
safety, Anita Francois, who's
All the
doing
targets
great
are
work
down.
in
Let's head
putting
back to
together what is
Malabat.
right now $250 million
I've not
budget
had that much fun in a
lot
long
of
time.
The very kinds
You
of
sure
things
know
that
how
we're
to
talking
entertain,
about. And I
Major.
think, one of the
You
clearest
should come work with
examples
me.
to me
With
is
you by my
we have
side,
asked
getting those
police officers
contracts signed would be a
to
breeze.
do almost everything
Plus,
we
you
can
wouldn't
think
have to
of
work
when
with
it
this
comes to
grumpy old
dealing
man
with
anymore.
The failures
Thank
of
you
not
for the
just the
offer.
social safety
At
net,
the
but also
moment, I'm tied to my
violent crime and
current
also
Right.
across the 5 boroughs.
I see.
And what we
Well,
found
think
time and
about
again is that these same officers who signed up to join the department to respond to violent crime, to prevent violent crime, are also being tasked with responding to a mental health call. And this is the kind of work that undermines both our ability to deliver on public safety as a whole, and it shows that we need to develop a new model. And so one of the focuses coming out of the Office of Community Safety is how do we provide the investment and the support so that when a New Yorker calls for help with a mental health crisis, that they can
This
also
is the
receive
ATGM
that
shooting
help
ground.
from
It
mental
stands
health
for
professionals.
anti-tank guided missiles.
And that's something that
They travel
continues
slower than tank
alongside the
rounds, but
incredible
have a
work
greater range.
that the office is doing.
Their use is
with
therefore
gun
preferable
violence
when the
prevention,
line of sight
which
is
work that
unobstructed.
we always need to do more and
Yeah,
more
I
of
know
because we
that.
know it's
Send
an
the
epidemic
targets. Let's
in
see
this
that in
city and across
practice.
this country. And a lot of that prevention work also comes with investing in gun violence interrupters.
In absence of a
in
specific
crisis
command,
management
the
systems.
gunners
And
communicate their
I've had the
targets to
privilege
each
of
other.
meeting a number
If a
of young
missile is
people
already in
who
flight,
themselves
the
have
other
been
gunner will
victims
give
of gun
priority
violence.
to another
And
target.
they've told me how
That way,
organizations
no
like
missiles
the
are
ones that
wasted.
New York City invests in
It's a
are
pleasant
the ones that will
surprise to
respond
see
to
I'm
them
not
in
the
the
only
moment
one
and make
worrying
sure
about the
that
taxpayers' money
retaliation
here.
isn't something they're thinking about.
The range of the missiles can be superior to the detection
Right.
range
So
of
that
the
it's-
unit.
it's-
So they
there's a
generally
wide
work
variety
alongside
of
recon units.
interdictions that you can do in those
The
various
gunners are trained to
situations, not
switch
just
targets
after the
mid-flight
fact
if the
make
initial
those
target
arrests.
disappears,
So there's a whole
or if
cadre
instructed to
of
do so.
groups that
This is
look,
particularly
they stood
useful,
in opposition
as the
to you.
long
There was
flight
great
time of the
amount
missile
fear.
can give
You
time to
run
the
through 'em
enemy
from
to take cover or
police
activate their smoke
department. I think
dischargers.
there's a lot of fear there, and I know,
hope
listen,
you use the
cops
old
in this
TOW
city,
2A
they
for this
do
demonstration.
Incredible.
The new Top Attack TOW
incredible
2B
work.
costs
And they
twice
don't
as much.
necessarily get
So
the
using them against
recognition and
anything
care.
other than a
You know,
tank
I
is a
think
waste of resources.
There was a lot of hostility to
Don't
them
worry, sir.
for a lot of
We
years.
use special
and
training
I
ammunition.
I think that's unfortunate.
Both cheaper
I
and less
think they're-
hazardous than regular
you know,
ammo
like you
during
say, that's something that you
exercises.
have to battle with.
By the way,
There's
Counselor,
Trump
where
supporters
do
in
you and the
New York
General
City
know
has,
each other
has
from?
everything. There's the
We got it all.
billionaire
We
class.
were
We got it
friends
all.
once.
What's your outreach like?
Good
to
friends,
those
actually.
communities? What have you learned from those
Oh,
communities?
and
what
what
have you learned
happened?
from those people? How do you
Can we
interact
just
with
not have
them?
this
And how do
conversation,
you
please?
take in
When do we get there?
their criticisms of you or their fears?
I think the first thing you have to do is walk into those conversations without having already made a judgment. And when you walk into it with an open mind, then it means that you can actually have a conversation and make a decision as to how you feel after you have that conversation. And I think in a lot of our politics, we label people and then disregard them entirely. We treat them as if they're not even people worth engaging with. And look, I'll have conversations with more billionaires that oppose my fiscal policies than those that don't, but there's still more things to actually be discussed about with them. And similarly, what I've also found is, to our benefit, the caricature of me and what our administration would mean was so immense. When I walk into a room and I don't immediately strangle 3 people that are in front of me,
I see
people are
nothing
taken aback
happening
that
here. What's going
might
on?
not actually be as bad.
It's a good sign,
Slightly
sir.
low bar.
Our troops
for,
are exercising their
conversation.
camouflage skills
Now, what
here.
about did you
They try to
have
reach the target area
caricatures of
undetected by
them?
staying
Are
away
there-
from the
you know,
hostile
look,
patrols.
I saw when you tried to
Staying
go
in
to
cover
Staten
as
Island.
much as
That was a
possible,
rough ride.
and sprinting
But
to move
are
across
there
open
caricatures
areas
that you've
faster.
had of
Recon
those
units
folks
are specially
that have
trained
been
and equipped to remain
shattered
as discreet
when
as
you've spent time
possible.
with them?
when we talk about
They have
Staten
a
Island,
reduced
you know,
visual,
what comes to
thermal,
mind
and
for me is
electronic signature
when
that
I
makes
went
them
there,
harder to
I was
detect.
being protested outside
Electronic signature.
by a number
So they
of
refrain from posting
Staten
geolocalized
Islanders who
selfies
were
during
very
the
supportive
mission?
of the president, deeply opposed to
Impressive.
me. And then when I went inside the restaurant, there were other Staten Islanders who were very excited about me coming there. And
that's
to
interesting.
me, it also shows me that you can just paint a broad brush and say, you know what, I'm not going. It's actually funny that you mention it because right after this, I'm going to Staten Island. Didn't plan that.
Have a caprese salad for me, my friend.
I got you,
It's a
brother.
beautiful thing.
But yes, you grow up in this city, you have caricatures of so many people.
That's right.
And you have to leave those at the door. And you also have to be willing to move beyond them and for some of those conversations to be actually good faith ones, to offer people the ability to critique you to you. And I think, you know, sometimes when you're the mayor, you're in a position of power, you want people to just tell you, oh, you're incredible. Here's what I love most about your agenda. It's like you're not actually going to get anything done if that's how you want to be treated.
We do have some leaders in this country who appreciate that work. And I'm cognizant of your time, and I really appreciate you spending here. So the final question, which I have to ask you because it's dominating the news today, you know, and the question to you is the Netanyahu thing and arresting Netanyahu. Understanding where you're coming from there, is there a sense you have that maybe is that a distraction from all these other things that you want to do? Is that taking a little bit more of the media space than you realized?
Well, I think I have a responsibility to be honest with New Yorkers. And when I'm asked a question, to answer it honestly.
So that was brought up to you. That was brought up to you.
Yes. And yet I know for many New Yorkers, when they see a clip, it doesn't begin with the question, it begins with the answer.
Right,
And I
you
think
just said
I
it.
think the focus always has to be on the work that you're doing and
Right.
how you find a balance between, you know, not giving your kind of a classic, you know, a political deflection where you don't want to answer any of those questions and focusing on the work and still finding that together.
And are there any other leaders that you would also like to arrest? Because I have a list of just...
Brother, anybody who the ICC is called for, I think we should be honoring.
All right, 7 or 8. All right. Very, very good. Mr. Mayor, thanks so much for joining us. And keep going, and we'll check back in every 6 to 7. Every Knicks championship, you'll come on this show.
See you next year.
Fantastic. Enjoy Staten Island. Have a great day.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, guys.
Oh, folks, it's back. It's Bombas. You know I love the Bombas. Because let me tell you something about my feet. I'm a delicate flower when it comes to my feet. My feet have to be ensconced in luscious fabrics. Your socks are the building block of your entire outfit. If the socks aren't going, you're not having yourself a day. And I have had, you know, those socks that, and you wear them a couple times and then you wash them, and they turn crinkly. Like, how do socks get like? Is the elastic just melt? Is it some sort of? Is it material that's biodegradable, and it just turns into nonsense? But the Bombas sock, and especially the sports sock,
Standing by.
man, this bad boy, it's cushioned exactly where you want it to be cushioned. It is, and it's sucking up your sweat. The point is this. You put your boots back in the closet and you got Bombas warm weather footwear ready for the rotation. They got slides and sandals. They've revolutionized the feet game. Foot game? Feet, plural, whatever it is. For every item you purchase, by the way, an essential clothing item is donated to someone facing housing insecurity. So not only are they saving your feet, they're saving the world. Head over to bombas.com/weekly and use code WEEKLY for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/weekly. Code WEEKLY at checkout. Guy's been on the job 6-7 months. How is his hair darker now? He's getting younger.
He said he's on minoxidil.
He did?
Is that really true?
He did?
Wow, okay. That's some radical transparency.
What, is that something that, what, would that work? Jesus, is that what can, wait, what have I been doing wrong?
Youth, baby, youth.
I've been on smoke and carouse.
A video shared to social media showing the arrest of a 40-year-old woman Monday morning on the Mugwa-Sagagan First Nation has sparked concern, with some saying the RCMP officers used excessive force.
Leave her alone! Get back!
The minute-and-a-half-long video does not capture the events leading up to the arrest, but the woman, Rose Georgina Angus, is seen with blood running down her face. The situation has prompted backlash. Angus's daughter, who posted the video, also stated she's organizing a peaceful protest at the Loon Lake RCMP detachment. In a statement, RCMP say 2 men who were wanted on warrants were seen on a residential street on the Mugwa-Sagagan First Nation and arrested at the front door of a home. RCMP say during the incident, Angus became confrontational and punched 2 police officers. Mounties say Angus was told to stop moving, but she left the front steps of the home.
I'm a licensed.
A video shared to social media showing the arrest of a 40-year-old woman Monday morning on the Mugwa-Sagagan First Nation has sparked concern, with some saying the RCMP officers used excessive force.
Leave her alone! Get back!
The minute-and-a-half-long video does not capture the events leading up to the arrest, but the woman, Rose Georgina Angus, is seen with blood running down her face. The situation has prompted backlash. Angus's daughter, who posted the video, also stated she's organizing a peaceful protest at the Loon Lake RCMP detachment. In a statement, RCMP say 2 men who were wanted on warrants were seen on a residential street on the Mugwa-Sagagan First Nation and arrested at the front door of a home. RCMP say during the incident, Angus became confrontational and punched 2 police officers. Mounties say Angus was told to stop moving, but she left the front steps of the home and was arrested. RCMP saying, quote, "When police officers are required to intervene in a given situation, it is by nature a complex, dynamic, and constantly evolving situation, often in a highly charged atmosphere. We recognize that any enforcement action can generate strong reactions, and we take those concerns seriously." Following an initial review of this incident at the Saskatchewan RCMP district level, which included the viewing of the RCMP body-worn camera footage, the force used by the police officers involved in this incident was determined to be reasonable. Still, the Saskatchewan Serious Incident Response Team says it will investigate the use of force used during the arrest. Rose Georgina Angus, who is from Mugwa-Sagagan First Nation, is facing 4 criminal charges, including possession of cocaine and assaulting a police officer in connection to Monday's incident. CTV has reached out to Angus's family for comment, but did not hear back in time for broadcast. Hallie Mandrick, CTV News, Saskatoon. A video shared to social media showing the arrest of a 40-year-old woman Monday morning on the Mugwa-Sagagan First Nation has sparked concern, with some saying the RCMP officers used excessive force.
Leave her alone! Get back!
The minute-and-a-half-long video does not capture the events leading up to the arrest, but the woman, Rose Georgina Angus, is seen with blood running down her face. The situation has prompted backlash. Angus's daughter, who posted the video, also stated she's organizing a peaceful protest at the Loon Lake RCMP detachment. In a statement, RCMP say 2 men who were wanted on warrants were seen on a residential street on the Mugwa-Sagagan First Nation and arrested at the front door of a home. RCMP say during the incident, Angus became confrontational and punched 2 police officers. Mounties say Angus was told to stop moving, but she left the front steps of the home and was arrested. RCMP saying, quote, "When police officers are required to intervene in a given situation, it is by nature a complex, dynamic, and constantly evolving situation, often in a highly charged atmosphere. We recognize that any enforcement action can generate strong reactions, and we take those concerns seriously." Following an initial review of this incident at the Saskatchewan RCMP district level, which included the viewing of the RCMP body-worn camera footage, the force used by the police officers involved in this incident was determined to be reasonable. Still, the Saskatchewan Serious Incident Response Team says it will investigate the use of force used during the arrest. Rose Georgina Angus, who is from Mugwa-Sagagan First Nation, is facing 4 criminal charges, including possession of cocaine and assaulting a police officer in connection to Monday's incident. CTV has reached out to Angus's family for comment, but did not hear back in time for broadcast. Hallie Mandrick, CTV News, Saskatoon. A video shared to social media showing the arrest of a 40-year-old woman Monday morning on the Mugwa-Sagagan First Nation has sparked concern, with some saying the RCMP officers used excessive force.
Leave
If you work in IT, you probably know that moment.
Hey, IT, the Wi-Fi isn't working. Can you please check it?
And this is exactly why you need Atera. Remote monitoring and management, remote access, help desk and ticketing, patching, and everything else you and your team need all in one place. With built-in AI agents across the platform, Atera's AI Copilot assists you in every step of your daily work. It runs diagnostics, troubleshoots any device, and suggests actionable solutions you can implement in a click.
But the real game changer is Robin.
Atera's autonomous IT agent. Robin eliminates over 92% of routine Tier 1 IT issues.
Think of it as your IT team force multiplier. Ready to upgrade your IT operations? Start your free trial now.
Give me a target.
Imagine never having to take meeting notes ever again. With Fathom's out-of-this-world AI note-taker, you don't have to imagine. And now it's even more powerful, with more ways to capture what matters, so your focus stays on what's important. Fathom turns conversations into accurate AI notes without getting in the way. Live summaries update in real time, so you can easily catch up, even if the conversation moves fast. Plus, add your own notes during a meeting right alongside Fathom's, and see it all instantly, right when the call ends. When your meeting's over, Fathom keeps working. Ask Fathom goes beyond search. You can ask questions and write prompts to find the answers you need, now across all meetings, not just one. Fathom also automatically listens for the key topics you care about, so important moments never slip through the cracks. And now, Fathom works anywhere meetings happen, like directly on your desktop or on your phone, where in-person conversations can now be captured with the Fathom mobile app. Plus, when you connect your tools using Fathom's deep integrations and advanced API, insights keep flowing effortlessly across your entire organization. With all new features and built to fit how you actually work, AI note-taking for everything you can fathom.
All right, welcome to iHip Weekend. We have our favorite guest, frequent guest, Charlie Goldenson, also known as Shay Chuck online. He's a political strategist, content creator, commentator, and he joins me today in studio in New York to do some old-fashioned MAGA bashing because these submissive wives of Trump could put on a master class for the trad wives movement.
Let's get after him. I love some MAGA bashing.
All right, let's start with freak show Stephen Miller. He has a new pitch for Trump's Save America Act. Play the clip.
A post on X is going viral right now where a customer, this is a real thing, a customer at the Olive Garden was setting a question to Olive Garden management asking if their all-you-can-eat summer pass could be shared with their family members. And the Olive Garden corporate replied, and it said, no, your card has a barcode that relates solely to you, and you must present a photo ID with your all-you-can-eat pasta pass in order to access all-you-can-eat pasta. So we've reached the point as a society where access to fettuccine at Olive Garden is vastly more secure than deciding who is commander-in-chief of the country.
What a titty baby. All right, Charlie, go off.
He looks like an Olive Garden breadstick. Which I was not planning on saying, and then I saw him there, and it's like, that's it. That's who he is.
Yeah.
I mean, just what a fucking joke. Like, I understand the argument he's making. I get it. But just to remind folks again, the argument that he's trying to make is that we need voter ID, or that they should be enacting voter ID in order to get people, or when they have to vote. To also remind folks that that is a tactic that has been used historically by conservatives, by fascists, by radicals, because it does impact voter turnout. Because you have to remember, a lot of Americans do not have IDs. They just don't. You might, I do, but predominantly indigenous Americans, disabled Americans, impoverished Americans, black and brown Americans do not have ID at the same rate as white Americans. So by them trying to require voter ID, what they know they're doing is trying to drive down voter turnout among
training area. Infantrymen use these buildings to simulate urban combat.
What a fucking
The rules are simple. We try to capture their sector, and they try to capture ours.
I just think he operates from a position of fear. I think he's super soft. Like he gets triggered so easily. He's triggered by this lie that he knows is a lie, that the Heritage Foundation knows is a lie, that there is massive voter fraud in
Our
the
troops
United
are ready
States
to
of
be
America.
called
And if
as
we go down their
reinforcements, Commander.
logic, let's look at it like this. The one presidential race that Trump was in power and had the ability to impact was 2020. And he says that was voter fraud. Why? Because he lost by 8 million votes. And then 2024, when Joe Biden was in power, he's saying, oh no, that election was on the up and up. Stephen Miller is, I think, like a Nazi. I think he's a modern day Nazi. I think he enjoys recreational cruelty. I think he studies Joseph Goebbels. I've seen these side-by-side videos of him and adopting mannerisms. The problem with a Stephen Miller being where he is positioned is Donald Trump is intellectually lazy. He doesn't care about what he leaves the American people with. He cares to plunder, do his interior design projects, throw up gold everywhere, and then he's going to tap out.
Yeah.
So he defers a lot of this stuff to Stephen Miller, who by Trump's own admission said, you really wouldn't want to hear what he really thinks if he says it out loud, because that's how vile Stephen Miller, and I'm not going to let Katie Miller off the hook. Katie Miller is as well. And I don't know if you saw recently, she's having a stage 5 meltdown over Grey's Anatomy.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, she's upset because they have a lesbian character, a gay character, and multiple characters of different ethnicities. She did an entire podcast episode on this. And this is on the foothills of her doing all of these Instagram videos, holding her newborn baby, going, I feel so much joy and laughter, and this is the best thing ever. And then she gets triggered by Grey's fucking Anatomy.
Yeah.
These people get triggered by fictional things.
Yeah. I mean, a few things. You mentioned Joseph Goebbels. For folks listening, that was Hitler's lead propagandist during the Holocaust, during World War II. I tend to think of this metaphor is somebody who could poke holes in, but I tend to think of the Trump administration as kind of having like two levels that they're working on.
Long-range support weapons usually require the unit to be
static. Is like Trump, and it's the ridiculousness, it's the stuff that sometimes we can laugh at, where you're like, yes, this is scary, but it's also so fucking stupid.
And can
but
be
to
used
me,
to
that
breach
almost feels like a
buildings held by
distraction to what's
enemy
going
units.
on below it, which is the Stephen Miller administration, which is, regardless of how stupid and ignorant and ridiculous and lazy a lot of the kind of Trump actions are, in parallel, there is like really real fascistic policies being enacted by people who know what they're doing. And that is a big difference also, we've talked about this many times, between
Vehicles can
this
provide
Trump
excellent fire
term
support,
and his previous
but are
term as
vulnerable
president,
to
where the
infantry
previous one,
anti-tank
they did a
rockets.
really poor job of
They must
staffing
therefore be kept out
kind
of their
like
range as
government
much as
bureaucrats who
possible.
had actual bureaucratic capabilities of knowing how to get things done. And what they've done in this administration this time around is they learned from that. And now they have people who work under Stephen Miller who are professional government bureaucrats who actually can get things
When units are under
and it's
fire
scary.
or take damage, their
because
stress
as we
level
again
increases,
laugh at the ridiculousness, these
them less
policies
efficient.
are being enacted. They are,
There are two levels of
being used
stress
against
expressed by
leftists,
a
against
blinking
people of
orange
color,
or
against
red color
queer
on their
people.
label.
And again, Stephen Miller, just as a reminder
When a
for folks,
unit
has
is
a
low on ammo or
drastic
heavily
history
damaged,
of white
it's
nationalism
preferable
that's
to
on
send
the
it
record
back
that
to
goes all the way
base,
back when he
rather
was
than
in high
abandoning
school
it to
in
its
Santa
fate.
Monica, when he stood up and
Units
gave
sent back to base
speeches about
become
why he should be
available again
required to
sooner,
pick up his own
and
trash
you'll
because
receive
there
a
were
bonus of
Hispanic
requisition
janitors
points
who were hired
proportional to
for
their
him.
condition.
When he was on the school bus in high school, going off about why we should be torturing people in the Middle East, we shouldn't be killing them because killing them means that they don't remember the torture. If we torture them, that means they have to survive with those memories. He was at Duke, where he led a white nationalist paper. If people know the name Richard Spencer, the self-identified neo-Nazi, you might remember him getting punched in the face on live television a few years back for being a neo-Nazi. Stephen Miller ran that publication with Richard Spencer. So this idea that he's not actually a white nationalist, that like he's putting on face, is not true. He worked for Michelle Bachmann, a extremely racist Christian nationalist in Congress. He worked for Jeff Sessions, one of the most racist senators we've ever had. And that's all, of course, before he even joined the Trump regime. So this guy has a history of white nationalism. He used to recommend books that were studied by the Third Reich for Breitbart. He would pitch Breitbart for them to cover these books, right? And so, no, when we make this comparison again, like Jen did to Goebbels to the Nazi propagandists. That is a very real comparison, and it's a fair comparison. I think people can't.
Yeah, and so what's happening, because you and I are sitting here saying this very clearly, and we have a right to say it. It's our First Amendment right to say that we see comparisons between Stephen Miller and an Olive Garden breadstick, and we also see comparisons between Stephen Miller and Nazis, specifically chief propagandist Joseph Goebbels. And so they are big, they claim they're free speech absolutists, but they're not. These people are scared of books, drag queens, comedians, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, lesbians, I can go on and on and on, white liberal women, white liberal men. And so what they're trying to do now is brand people like you and me and literally hundreds of millions of people left-wing terrorists. And Marco Rubio has turned out to be one of the most submissive wives Donald Trump has. I mean, Melania Trump is far more rebellious than Marco Rubio is. And here is Marco Rubio. He had a left-wing terrorism event, and Stephen Miller is at this event, and Stephen Miller, here he is making a fool of himself yet again. Play the clip.
Violent Antifa demonstrations. You see any photograph of those who were assembled. To be blunt, not one of the people that is demonstrating looks like a normal person. Not one looks normal.
Pause.
They're all...
Shut up and let's go!
That motherfucker is saying that some people don't look like normal people when he looks like that. Okay, go on.
Formed in some way, in their appearance, in their dress, in their mannerism. Why is that? Why? You look at two photographs and you see a normal American street, you see an Antifa protest. Why did the people that are violently demonstrating, why is there not one normal-looking person among them? Every one of them, through the course of their life and their decisions, has scarred their body and their appearance in many different ways, to the point in which their outer appearance becomes a manifestation.
All right, to quote George W. Bush, that's some weird shit. You know?
Yeah, I wish there was a camera facing the press corps that was listening to him, because I assume their faces. I mean, I just don't think people are buying this anymore. I hope, I guess it's the optimistic view of mine, is like, again, it goes back to the ridiculous comedy component and then the serious horrifying component. And it's both things happening at once. On one hand, it's so absurdist, you can't take it seriously in terms of the arguments he's making and the propaganda he's using to push this policy. On the other hand, he's pushing the policy, and this policy is happening. This was called, I think is it NPSM 7, which, folks should Google it. It is something that the administration pushed like over 6 months ago. I think not a lot of folks have been talking about it. Ro Khanna, to his credit, one of the few Congressmen who really mentioned it. But it's basically a tool that is allowing the federal government to go after everyone, but really leftists. The point is to go after leftists, communists, socialists, etc., without kind of the due process that we would expect from the federal government. And of course, yes, he looks like an Olive Garden breadstick. Yes, he looks like a thumb. Yes, he looks like a freak show. And yeah, you have to both laugh and also be horrified and take what he's saying super seriously at the same time, because he is talking like, he's talking about you.
Yeah.
He's talking about independent media.
Yeah.
He's talking about leftist creators and activists. He's talking about pro-Palestinian activists. He's talking about everybody who is utilizing their free speech. And what's happening, and I've said this for a while now, is like the Democrats actually are the party of free speech. We actually are the party of the First Amendment. Like, we need to remind people of that. We need to clip these things. We need to explain these policies to people so they understand that while they position themselves as the party of freedom, there's absolutely nothing free about anything that they stand for. Nada. So
Completely agree. And here's Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio convened 65 delegations from around the world to tackle the issue of left-wing terrorism. This is at the same event. Play the clip.
This is a distinctive and unique evil. It has always been driven by a hatred, above all else, a hatred for civilization itself. It is a revolt of the worst against the best, a revolt of the weak and the cowardly against the strong and the good.
Pathetic
It's perpetrated by those who cannot build,
sure the commander
who
let them
cannot
win,
create,
as
who
to not
cannot achieve
demoralize
great
them.
things,
They're only
and
reservists,
take their
after all.
revenge upon the world for their own inadequacy
Is that so,
by
Commander?
seeking to destroy
Well,
those
let's
who
do
can.
it again. And this time, no
Okay,
mercy.
what strikes me
We're
about
here
this
to show
is
them
they're
the
saying
superiority of our
cannot build,
tactics and
cannot
equipment,
create, blah, blah,
not to
blah. And
look
these are
like
the people
fools.
that are so triggered by the LGBTQ plus community. One of the most creative, artistic communities among us is the LGBTQ plus community. And this propaganda where they're lying, and this is this lie that white supremacists lie, that white people are the job creators. White people gift everything else to everybody else. We are the builders. And I think Marco Rubio is going to be a particularly interesting case study for two reasons. Number one, because he has been an absolute obedient little chihuahua, Donald Trump. I mean, absolutely obedient. He has done whatever that man wants. And the second part that I think is going to be interesting to see how history covers him is that Marco Rubio received 99-0 votes when he was at his confirmation hearing. Nobody voted against him. And to me, that's a full-blown indictment on the Democrats because it's symptomatic of how this happened, how this fascism incubated, that even, and I love Bernie Sanders, but that even a Bernie Sanders didn't say the fact that Marco Rubio witnessed January 6th and knows all of the crimes that this man has committed, knows that he's an adjudicated rapist, and that Marco Rubio agreed to go work for him should in and of itself be disqualifying. I have interviewed Senator Murphy, and I asked him if he regretted his vote for Marco Rubio, and he said yes, he did. So I'm going to put that on the record too. But that to me is like, it shows they show up to every fight with machine guns, and we show up with plastic spoons.
I mean, they also this again. I think about the difference between the first term and this term for Trump, which is one of their strategies, which to their credit worked. It's why Rubio got 99 votes. Is that they're choosing? They chose a spectrum of administration officials, some of whom are fucking freakish fascists, and then some of whom, when compared to those freakish fascists, seem, oh, well, that's okay. And that was Marco Rubio's role. Marco Rubio was placed in there because he didn't seem as insane as some of the other people that they put forward to staff the administration. And so that, to me, is the problem with, again, a lot of the Democratic leadership, a lot of the Democratic Party, is like we fall into these traps of the Republicans, which are smart traps, and of the Trump administration, which is like they continue to move the goalposts on everything. And when they continue driving the goalposts right, I guess, they drag the Democratic Party with them. And where Rubio used to be a freak fascist, now he seems normal in comparison to all the others. But now you have this. Now you have him, as you said, something Chihuahua. I can't remember. And then the other thing I'll say, a submissive Chihuahua. The other thing, too, I'll say is you talk about creativity. He doesn't mention creativity in that clip, but actually, if you listen to the rest of that speech, he does talk about creativity. He talks about how communists or communism hates creativity and free thinking. And again, it's a straw man argument, right? The second piece, though, is fascism hates creativity. Fascism hates free thinking. Fascism hates art, right? Like, that is why they are targeting arts education and arts funding. That's why they don't want independent media, because creativity breeds authenticity, it breeds honest dialogue and conversation and truth, and that is the most dangerous thing to Marco Rubio. That is the most dangerous thing to Donald Trump. Just remember that. If you see creativity, if you see art, know that that is the antithesis to fascism. We should all be supporting that, because that is not what they want. So stop letting these motherfuckers just lie to us over and over and over.
Completely agree. All right, JD Vance is getting ripped, which is really fun to beat up on JD Vance. I mean, he's just the most unlikable person.
I haven't seen.
Oh God, no. No, he's not getting ripped in that way. He's getting ridiculed, Charlie. So conservative podcaster Tim Dillon blasts JD Vance over his appearance on Joe Rogan and his comments about the Epstein files. Let's take a listen.
You have to be one of the stupidest people in the world to fall for this shit at this point. You are peddling the dumbest, most, by the way, I hate to use this word, but cringe. It's literally cringe. You watch this and you go, I feel so disgusted by the fact that they think people are still gonna believe this shit. Well, it's the deep state.
What do you think?
I don't think saying "I told you so" is like the most helpful political tool, but it's so infuriating seeing this shit. Where it's like, on one hand, great, like I'm very happy that Dylan and like these other podcast people, bros, whatever, are like coming around. On the other hand, it's like, no shit, like you're describing yourself. Like you are one of the people who got us here, and I get it. Like you were tricked and used, etc. But many of us.
Were they tricked?
I mean, I don't know.
Really, were they tricked, or are they economic Darwinists who ride the survival of the dollar and their income? And they saw that Trump this form of masculinity was kind of popular, especially against the black woman, especially against Sleepy Joe, and they wrote it. Because it's hard for me to buy that Andrew Schultz and Joe Rogan and this guy, of course they knew. They all saw January 6th. They all saw what we saw. Yeah. And so I think right now what they're doing is they're jumping off the Trump train early because, number one, he's going to, biology's undefeated.
Is this early?
No, for them. Yeah. Before the term is up. No, it's not early, but before the term is up, because they want to, this is why Tucker's jumped off. This is why Marjorie Taylor Greene's jumped off. They want to position themselves. They see the ship is sinking. And so they're like, oh, let's jump up right now. Whereas Laura Loomer, Bannon, they're going to ride that motherfucker all the way down to the bottom of the sea.
Yeah. I mean, and so much of it too is like, maybe, I don't know if there's any reasoning to this or if it's just like my own bias, but like, I need these people to acknowledge their role in this, right? Like, again, like it's the same thing with Theo Vaughn, Rogan, Schultz, all the people that you mentioned. I appreciate that they are moving in the right direction. I appreciate that they're jumping ship. Good. Like, too late, but fine. But people need you to acknowledge the role you played in this, whether you were used, whether you were being lazy, whether you were an opportunist, like whatever the reasoning is. It's just very hard, I think, for any of us or anybody to take you seriously when you were like unable to hold up a mirror to yourself and acknowledge your responsibility in this. And I think a lot about like we've talked about this before of in this room we're going to be okay for the most part, I think, minus in case we get arrested by Marco Rubio or something. But like what Tim Dillon, Theo Vaughn, Andrew Schultz, Joe Rogan, regardless of if they're jumping ship, what they need to remember and what folks need to remember is like, because of the decisions they made to support or amplify Trump and his fucking regime, human bodies have suffered. People have died. Children are going parentless. Legal immigrants are being killed in the street. And like, while it's not individually their responsibility, they absolutely played a role in that. And it's not just like politics sometimes can be fun in games. Like politics though is also very tangible. It's very real. There are downstream impacts on human bodies and human suffering. And like, I need these people to acknowledge that they played a role in that. I need them to say, fuck, the decisions I made absolutely helped get us here, and I apologize to my audience or whatever, but until they do that, it's very hard for me to take this kind of like flip-flopping seriously.
I completely agree with you. There needs to be an atonement. Yeah. There needs to be a purge of, I facilitated and incubated this moment that contributed to this. I mean, Trump's support by new media, earned media, that he was able to go on all of these podcast shows and hardly get any pushback and just explain the weave and all of this stuff. They really enabled a lot of this stuff. And I agree with you. Like now you're like, oh, he said no new wars and I thought he meant it. It's like, you really believed him? Like you really think this person was a truth teller and not a liar? Like you really believed that? It's just such either an own that they're stupid, which is possible, but I don't think they are. I think they're clever, and I think that they are diabolical with their cleverness, and that's why I think they've jumped off the Trump train. But speaking of clever without being diabolical, our mayor, Zoran Mamdani, was asked in a New York Times interview what will happen if Netanyahu comes to New York City. Play the clip.
Warrant what will happen if he comes in September.
I believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu belongs in The Hague. He's a war criminal who has been charged by the International Criminal Court. And what you will find is that is an opinion that is held by many purely because of what his actions have wrought over these last many years. I've also said that I will follow the laws that we have here in New York City because I believe that there's an importance in following the law as a leader who presides over our city, and that's something that I plan to do.
People can disagree morally or ideologically, I suppose, with what he's saying, maybe, but he's speaking objective truth. Like, Benjamin Netanyahu is a convicted criminal. And to me, what Zoran says there is brilliant and amazing, but it's also just like, it's showing the purity of his politics, which is like, he said that exact same thing on the trail. This isn't new. He's not changing his tone, he's not changing his message. And a reminder to folks who are scared about what he's saying, that this is why he won. That same mindset, that same idea, that same vision of the world, that same vision of equity and fairness and following the law and holding war criminals accountable and genociders accountable, like, that is why people like him. That is in part why people voted for him. So there's going to be a bunch of neoliberals and Bill Maher and whoever and conservatives who are going to say this is fucking crazy. He doesn't have the power to do this. But a reminder, like, New York voters voted for him almost exactly because of this. Not that everybody was voting on the issue of Israel, but this idea that he is exceptionally clear in his worldview, he's exceptionally clear in his politics, he's exceptionally clear with his plans, and he's not deviating from that. And so, like, I applaud him for sticking to it. I do.
I do too. I think that we need more of that.
Yeah.
In the Democratic Party. We need for the Democrats to fight and say, no, Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. He deserves to be in The Hague. He should be in The Hague. And I intend to follow the law to get him there.
Yeah.
And this is not, the only reason why this is such a big issue is because the Israel issue is used to manipulate all of us in so many different ways all of the time within the Democratic Party, within, from right to left, etc. I don't think there's a bigger argument for how corrupt Benjamin Netanyahu is. Let's say that we didn't have all of the evidence and the multiple, I think we're up to 30 different groups that have said, yes, it was a genocide. Take all of that and set it aside. If Benjamin Netanyahu oversees this beautiful bright light of democracy in the Middle East, if what they say is true, why did they prefer Donald Trump to win over Kamala Harris? A man who tried to overturn a free and fair election, who refused to go participate in the peaceful transfer of power, instead packed his toys and left like a pussy. And they supported Donald Trump because Donald Trump doesn't give a shit how many people they kill. He doesn't care. He simply doesn't care about the loss of human life. And that's telling, because Biden allowed Netanyahu to do everything he did up until Trump. And that, to me, says, oh, that wasn't far enough. They wanted Iran. They want to balkanize Iran. They want to go further. They want to enact the Greater Israel Project. So they need the most stupid, selfish, narcissistic, dipshit Trojan horse imaginable. And that's why they picked Donald Trump, because it's a lie that they're a democracy.
It is. And I'll say one other thing quickly to bring it back to Zoran is, like, the issue of the genocide in Gaza on behalf of the Israeli government, on behalf of Netanyahu and the support of the US government, it is a kitchen table issue. And this is why I think Zoran is actually the perfect person to be talking about it like this, because Americans are clear, Democrats and Republicans are clear.